Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of the Prediction Show. I am your host, Joe, and this is my website, OddAlerts.com. And today it is a Carabao Cup special. We're going to be jumping to the last 10 data once more, this time just for the Carabao Cup teams, because as you can see on the stats scroller, it's showing us the Carabao Cup form, which is not very useful. Before we get into this video and start creating some bet builders based on the data and also based on recent history and recent news, very recent news in terms of Manchester United, congratulations are in order. Well done to this person. You have won a month of OddAlerts Pro because you commented on the last video. And the same applies for this video. Just comment down below and you'll automatically be entered into a draw to win OddAlerts Pro. And I'm going to make it easy for you because I've got a question. Manchester United finally sacked Erik ten Hag. The inevitable has happened. Where will they finish in the Premier League? Get your comments in. Let us all know your thoughts and predictions on Manchester United and how they will do now that Ruben Amorim potentially looks like he's going to get it, doesn't he? This is what he said in the comments in the press conference yesterday.
I don't know.
Will you be in the dugout at Old Trafford on Sunday?
I will be here.
Definitely.
I don't know.
Will you be here? I'll be here, definitely. Are you sure? Well, I don't know, to be honest. What strikes me, though, as well, is in terms of charisma, people go on about aura all the time now with players and managers. The charisma difference between this guy and Erik ten Hag is kind of off the charts. So let us know in the comments what you think will happen at Manchester United. Where will they finish? Will he be a success? Let us all know and talk amongst yourselves as well as you usually do. But now we will get into the nitty-gritty, the Carabao Cup fixtures. We've got some good games today. Brighton, Liverpool should be a good game. Newcastle, Chelsea, the repeat of the Sunday game, of course. But with Chelsea, you would expect a lot of rotation because these games are the games for, Jorgensen. Maybe some of those defenders get switched out. Neto started, so Mudryk maybe will play on the left this time. And away at Newcastle, it becomes a bit of a different game for those players that are not as fresh. So while some people might just think, well, Chelsea won on Sunday, they're going to win again, it might not be that simple. Man United Leicester should be a good one. Van Nistelrooy taking interim charge of Manchester United for this game. Interesting to see how he sets them up, who he plays, because I think he will tell them to play with freedom, just tell them to play how they want to play, because it doesn't really feel like some of those players are being set up in the perfect system for them, for Man United. So Van Nistelrooy potentially could just tell them to go out there and have fun tonight, knowing that it might be his only game as Manchester United manager. And I think Van Nistelrooy has a deeper connection, of course, not just because he played there, but even when he goes over to the fans and stuff at the end of the game, he just, he has a better feeling of what the Man United fans want, I think. Anyway, Preston against Arsenal. Tough game. Arsenal do have injuries, so this could be a nice chance for Arteta to rest and rotate, play some of those young kids that have looked quite exciting this season. Preston will take a look at their form. I'm a Blackpool fan, so I want nothing more than a 4-0 Arsenal victory. Aston Villa Palace. Palace, big win for them against Spurs at the weekend. Now going away to Aston Villa, very tough place to go. Emery loves a cup competition, we all know that. And then the later game, although it's only half an hour later, is Tottenham against Manchester City. These teams have met in cup competitions quite a bit in recent years, so we will take a deeper look at that one as well. And we'll put together maybe a couple of combined bet builders. So we'll look at all the data and then we will go over to Bet365 and just see what we feel. So before we jump to the last 10, we'll take a look at the probability model. You can see a very, very strong performance expected from Arsenal, 1.61 implied odds. I imagine the odds are actually much lower in reality. Man City just under evens with the model, away at Spurs. But for Spurs, you've got players like Moore, Bergvall, Archie Gray. They've got a potential team here that isn't one that is seen quite often, which could work against them potentially, but Ange might lean into that given the way they played at the weekend. It was not a good performance really from Spurs. Maybe they are missing Son. He was fantastic against West Ham, and then of course he's got injured and he hasn't played since. So Liverpool have won 8 of the last 10. Up there with them Villa, Chelsea, Spurs, City, the obvious teams. At the bottom of this list, only 12 in this list at the moment. We have Man United, who have won 3 of the last 10 games. Is that right? I know they've drawn a lot of games. They lost to West Ham at the weekend, and in the Premier League preview, they'd drawn 5 of the last 10 before that, so I guess it's correct, isn't it? Terrible stuff, and that's the sort of form that'll get you sacked. Preston have drawn 5 of the last 10, as have Manchester United. No draws in the last 10 games for Spurs. They either win or they lose. Villa and City, the unbeaten teams in the Carabao Cup at the moment. In terms of games with goals, Chelsea top the pile, 36 in the last 10. That's 3.6 per game, of course. And at the bottom of this list is Newcastle United, just 20 goals. And again, if we look at goals for, we scroll down here, Newcastle just 10 goals in their last 10 games. That's 1 per game. That is not good enough. Preston outscoring them, and as we saw in the Premier League video last week, pretty much every team in the Premier League outscoring them as well. Let's look at over 2.5 goals. Chelsea 7 out of 10, Leicester 7 out of 10, Spurs 7 out of 10. In terms of over 3 goals, you've got Brighton at the top there, 6 of their last 10 games. Preston 5 of their last 10. We'll take a look at Preston's recent form because Arsenal are also there in third. Leicester City, 8 games in the last 10 ended BTTS. There was a 1-0 victory in there as well. So, they are keeping clean sheets when it's not BTTS. I'm not feeling BTTS instantly away at Manchester United today, just given the circumstance with Van Nistelrooy coming in. I think we could see a 2-3, 4-0 win, to be honest. Or maybe we see more of the same, who knows, but I'm leaning towards the sort of new manager bounce, the shackles being off for a few of these players. In terms of fouls won, Preston are winning quite a lot of fouls, so that could be an interesting angle on the Arsenal game. Maybe Arsenal cards, where the bookies are expecting this to be a domination from Arsenal, so they're not necessarily expecting Arsenal to get a card. But clearly, Preston at home, they've won more fouls than any other team in the last 10 that are in the Carabao Cup. And in terms of fouls committed, Arsenal are third bottom of that list, so they're not committing too many fouls. Preston are also in that bottom half of the list as well. Newcastle are committing more fouls than any other team. Newcastle, Tottenham, Leicester, Palace and Brighton. So Newcastle against Chelsea. Chelsea with many tricky wingers. Cole Palmer as well, of course. Will he play? Now, Newcastle might be doing the fouling, but Chelsea have received more cards than any other team across this period. Arsenal and Man City bottom, separated by just a couple of cards. So, yeah, we'll have a look. And Preston, obviously, second as well, by the way, and they are playing Arsenal, so you would expect them to take a few cards if it means stopping a goal-scoring chance. So Preston are bottom for yellow cards for the opponents, but they're top for fouls won. Interesting. Now we will just look and scroll down to corners and see who is top of the pile for corners. It is still Spurs with 130 in the last 10. That's 13 per game on average. And in terms of corners for, Man City have gone way beyond them thanks to the European game that they played at home, the 5-0 victory. They had a lot of corners in that game, and they had a lot of corners against Southampton as well. I think they had 13 or 14 corners. Southampton had 1. And no team has conceded more corners than Leicester as well. So let's jump back. I'll keep going back and forth, but we'll jump to the data now and check out the Preston game and just check out some of the recent results for them. So Preston's form at the moment is decent. 1 defeat in 6, unbeaten in 5, 3 clean sheets in there as well. They were 2-0 up and then 3-1 up at Plymouth, and that game finished 3-3. And you can see similar story here as well. At home for Preston, they are pretty decent, unbeaten since early August. They did sack the manager, of course, at the start of the season, Preston, after just a couple of games, I think it was. And you can see clean sheets have continued. They always do this at the start of the season. Clean sheets for Preston, and then they'll fall away, and then they'll be in a bit of a playoff push, and then ultimately they won't make the playoffs. That's just what happens at Preston. And for Arsenal, 1 defeat in recent times. That was to Bournemouth away from home. No wins in 3. No wins in 3 games for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta away from home. Now, of course, Atalanta, Man City and Bournemouth. A bit of a different test, isn't it, today away at Preston. Let's have a look at the odds. 1.29. So we're not going to be betting on Arsenal to win. Absolutely no way. Not worth it, because there will be heavy rotation, I think, in this game. I think some of the young players for Arsenal will play. So Arsenal to receive a single card or more, 1.3. And then if we look at the data a second, we can see they've received 2.09 per game. Quite a low card count, it must be said, for Preston, but this is a knockout cup competition. Usually increases the cards because of the jeopardy. You know, as I say, they're playing Arsenal at home. If Martinelli or someone like that is going through. Saka was limping, by the way, at the Ballon d'Or Awards. So again, Saka's somebody I would expect not to be playing in this game. So this just, it tilts the scale slightly, doesn't it? Arsenal are still firm favourites, don't get me wrong, but if Preston can put a little bit of pressure on Arsenal, if they can score a goal, then that could very well result in a card for Arsenal if they've got some younger, experienced players, shall we say, on the pitch. Now, as you can see, BTTS just 25% and 27% for Arsenal and Preston. And Preston have actually failed to score in 42% of home games across this last 25 period. They've scored just 12, which is an average of 1 per game. So I was going to look at combining the card with a Preston goal, just Preston to score, and it would take you to 2.25. But I'm going to leave it. We're going to have that as the first selection, and we're going to go through the games and see what we can pick up on the way. So the next game we'll take a look at is Brighton-Liverpool. Now we can do a AI fixture simulation for this one. It will take the probability model and it will run 10,000 simulations, and it will give us a 2-1 Liverpool victory. The most common scoreline was 2-1. Average goals here across the simulation, 3.02. BTTS landed in 61% of all these simulations. We can take a look at Brighton's recent results, and that 2-2, that should have been a very easy and comfortable game for Brighton. At the end, the goal they conceded, I don't know if you've seen it, but they had 4 players on 1, and the one guy intercepts it for Wolves, and then they go down the other way and score. But that was an attack they didn't need to do. They didn't need to commit so many players forward, so I think they'll maybe adjust slightly in this game for Liverpool visiting, and at home now. The new manager for Brighton, he is unbeaten. I think he's unbeaten. Yeah, they played Man United and they beat them. Crawley Town, Ipswich, Wolves, Forest, Spurs, and then Wolves again. BTTS in the last 4 games, and also first half goals as well, if that's something you want to look out for. What I'll do is set an alert on first half goals actually. Let me know when it hits 1.6 and I'll come in and investigate, see what the pressure monitor is saying. And for this one, I am feeling BTTS. I think Liverpool will go there and score. Liverpool, rotation-wise, doesn't matter who comes in, they've got very good players that can come in and rotate. Gakpo didn't start at the weekend, but him coming in, he's a threat. He absolutely is, and Brighton will give you space as they go forward and as they attack. And just got to say, I love watching Brighton. The football they play and the mix of players that they've got as well. So seeing someone like Danny Welbeck lead the line and score every week is fantastic. So we're at 1.95 now. We've got BTTS, Brighton, Liverpool, Preston, Arsenal. Arsenal to get a single card. Let's take a look at some of the other games, starting with Old Trafford. So Man United 1.3 to win this one. And BTTS no is 1.95. I'm not going to go for it, of course, because it's Man United. Their defence is more than capable of conceding from an error or something like that. Over 2 goals, 1.5. I actually think Man United to score more than 1 is 1.33. 1.33 is not fantastic, but I do see a performance where Man United just, you know, they come out here and they're playing with a bit of freedom under Van Nistelrooy. The new manager bounce, it's just cliche, isn't it? But it happens a lot. I've tried to eliminate the risk here. Both teams to receive a card, yes, and most corners, Manchester United. We saw how many corners Leicester have conceded so far this season. It's way above anybody in the Premier League, and even in the Carabao Cup across the last 10, they are top of the pile for that metric. Both teams to receive a card in Newcastle-Chelsea, I should say, 1.12, not worth it. We will take a look at the referee, see what their second half data is like, because I do like a second half card. It is Chris Kavanagh, 3.82 cards per game across his last 125 appearances. In the Premier League this season, 7 appearances, 7 cards per game. On average, 4.71 in the second half. Both teams booked in every single game. 13 in the Villa game. The Villa Bournemouth game was crazy. We had that on, didn't we? In the last video, we had Bournemouth to get the most cards, and Villa just wouldn't stop getting fouled and booked. I think Villa had one more card, but as you can see, 13 cards is mental. There was a period where Villa were just getting booked every 5 minutes. So he's produced 3 red cards already this season in the Premier League. He needs to keep his card in his pocket a little bit. Let's hope he doesn't for this game, though. So looking at Chelsea's form, the card markets are terrible, by the way. I'm not going to touch them. Odds are just too low to do anything with them. But Chelsea have scored in every single game they've played since the opening day of the season. Man City, when I think Chelsea was still finding their feet under Maresca. But now, I fancy Chelsea to score in every game they play. Really, I think they can cause issues for every team. You see how quick they are on the break. You see how they are capable of also keeping the ball when they need to, playing out from the back. I think they'll cause issues for Newcastle. I think Brighton went there recently and played a similar way on the counter-attack with the pace they've got on the wings, and I think it's likely that Chelsea will do that. And they've got the players to do it, so Chelsea to score 1.22. If we look at over 1.5 goals, it's 1.18. So I fancy Chelsea to definitely score, and we only need 1 goal. Maybe it could be 1-0 rather than going over 1.5 goals. You see how the odds are marginally better when you think about it like that. But do you think Newcastle will reply as well? Because BTTS is 1.53. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. If we're making this a sensible bet builder and trying to eliminate as much risk as possible, I would go with this. I would go with Chelsea to score, and that's it. And let me know what you think about that in the comments. BTTS could land quite easily, by the way, but I just think with the way Newcastle have been playing and the lack of goals, Isak is back and he scored at Stamford Bridge, of course. It could be an interesting game. It could be 3-1 either way. It could be 3-2. But in any of those scenarios that I think about, Chelsea score. And they've scored in every game apart from the City game. So I'm going to leave that one here, and then we'll take a look at the Man City game, and we'll look at the player prop tool as well for that. And this is what it looks like. It's 3.67. Both teams to get a card, and Man United to have the most corners. The data backs that one up. Arsenal to get a card, as we discussed when we took a look at that game. Brighton, Liverpool, we saw the data for both of those teams, and Liverpool playing the way they are at the moment, it's highly, highly likely that they score. And Brighton playing the way they are at the moment, the way they are defending at the moment as well in some parts of games, Liverpool will also score, and Liverpool are susceptible to conceding, and they may rotate. Conor Bradley, Kwanzaa potentially coming in, so who knows, that could weaken them in terms of the defence. Chelsea to score, as they have in every game apart from that opening day game with City. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And before we take a look at the Man City game, just a quick plug to the new bet slip generator bot on Telegram. This will post 4 times a day using the bet slip generator tool that you can check out on OddAlerts. It uses the API, which allows you to call the bet slip generator on demand from anywhere in the world using code and scripts and other cool stuff. So Man City have won the last couple of meetings against Spurs, 2 away games as well. Tottenham, this is how they look at the moment. As we saw in the last 10 data, not many draws at all. Just 1 draw, which was Solanke's debut, wasn't it? The 1-1 game, where he should have scored, by the way. Solanke, he's holding up the ball well, he's doing well, but he's not doing his job. He's not scoring the goals. You know, as much as you can praise him if you're a Spurs fan, his job is to score goals, especially when someone like Son isn't there, isn't playing. So he needs to start putting him in the back of the net for me. I've not been overly impressed with City. They got the job done against Southampton. I watched the majority of that game, and obviously every team makes it tough for City. The Fulham game, Fulham were the better team in that one. If we look at their away form, I mean, they're just getting results, aren't they? They just do the job. I say they're just getting results. They're obviously a fantastic team. There's no doubt about that. And this kind of game against Spurs, who do give you space. So Kulusevski, 9 fouls in his last 5. He's obviously playing in a more central role this season. That could be a good option. We'll obviously have to take a look at the data. Solanke to commit a foul, potentially. He's an aggressive pressing forward. De Bruyne, unlikely to play. Nunez did actually start against Southampton, which makes me think Grealish comes into this one, or Doku comes in. Ruben Dias, Doku, there he is. Kulusevski looks a good option there, doesn't he? Let's have a look at shots on target. Haaland, McAtee, De Bruyne, Kulusevski again. Maddison. Will Maddison play? Because he's been left out of the team in the last couple of weeks. He was brought off against West Ham at half-time, and then they turned it around, and then he was obviously not in the starting lineup against Palace. Son, I wouldn't expect him to play this game, given that he's coming back from an injury. It would be a surprise to risk him in this Carabao Cup tie, but of course, Ange Postecoglou always wins something in his second season, so he will be expecting to get through this game. Tough game. Now let's take a look at the odds on offer. So Kulusevski to commit a foul, 1.14, absolutely shocking. Udogi, 1.16, Porro, 1.36, Solanke, not even offered. So yeah, shop around. Betfair likely to have those players for you, and they also have fouls won as well to win a foul, which is a nice double in terms of Solanke winning a foul and being fouled. Fouling and winning a foul. Just absolutely shocking odds here. Vicario to make 2.5 or more saves, 1.16. What are you supposed to do with that? To score or assist is where I was looking. Solanke could be a nice base to the bet. Solanke to score or assist, massive game this. At home, he's going to start. That is going to be the base. And as I said, this one can be a bit more of a fun one because the odds are shocking. There's no sensible bet builder here because it's not possible. The odds are not great. Tottenham to have the most corners gets us to 5. How are City going to play this game? We know Tottenham have had a lot of corners. City have as well, but they're playing away from home. Tottenham to have the most corners is quite appealing, so we'll stick that on. It gets us to 5s. Solanke to score or assist, and Phil Foden to have a shot on target. Boost by 25%. Yes, please. So that's what I'm thinking for this game. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. What would you change? Will Solanke finally do something for Spurs? I know he's been holding it up well, but as I said before, his job is to score goals, and this is a massive game for him, for his manager as well, Ange Postecoglou. Always wins something in the second season, apparently, and if you're going to win something, the Carabao Cup is a good chance of silverware, and if you're going to do it, might as well knock out City at this stage. So that has been the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and remember, where will Manchester United finish? If you want to win a month of OddAlerts Pro, just let us know in the comments, and you can win access to tools like this, the bet slip generator. Adjust your settings, hit get, and then you've got bet slips at your fingers based on high probability, based on value bets. Fantastic stuff.